Hello, fellow sleuthers. We've talked to a lot of Hallmark stars and writers and directors, and they've all been absolutely awesome. But I have to say, today I may have had the most fun I've ever had talking to Holland Roden, the star of Tipline Mysteries. She's just cool. It was a blast. I had so much fun. I'm sure you will as well. So, without further ado, let's talk to Holland. This podcast was created by fans for fans and is not affiliated with or sponsored by Hallmark or the Hallmark channel. Well, sleuthers, today is a very exciting day. We have the wonderfully talented Holland Roden on as our guest. Hello, Holland. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so I have to say, you have made me the cool dad because I posted a little teaser, like I have an interview coming up tomorrow, and my daughter sent me a thing. Who is it? Who is it? And I said, it was you. To which she then texted her best friend from high school, and she's like, you'll never guess who my dad's talking to.
Oh, did
And
they watch
then,
Teen Wolf?
oh, yes.
Oh, that's so
And they
sweet.
are like, that was totally their high school thing. And so they're fanatics. And so I became like the total cool dad. And I was
I
talking to them last night and they were
oh,
gangbusters. So Mackenzie and Emma both say hello and love you.
that's so sweet of them. Hi, Mackenzie. Hi, Emma. That's so sweet. I love when Teen Wolf was a fan. If they have families watch together, or like there was some sort of interaction at work where it's like, oh yeah, I get to be the cool parent. That's like, I love that. Anything that brings families closer together and gets you guys talking, I it's like my favorite thing to hear. So that's
But like
that's
I
awesome.
said, anything to make me seem like cooler
I'm
than
glad
the
I can
cool
give
than the
you.
cool.
I don't know if
It
they
is
are
all
cool
good.
points per se. They just the rose-colored glasses
So,
points where they look cool.
well, I'm going to say, so one of the things that they were talking about, so I got in a little text chain as we were, going all off. And I'll admit I was not a Teen Wolf kind of guy. So I think I was a little out of the demo. But one of the things they were saying that they really loved about it's Lydia Martin, right? Was the character Lydia?
Hmm.
That they loved how that character was just a strong female character. And so they asked me to ask you, what was it like having that be fairly early in your career,
Hmm.
playing this strong, you know, female, which is not, you don't always see in movies and shows and things like that,
Yeah.
especially early in your career. And then how has that like affected you going forward in your career?
As far as how they painted Lydia on paper, that's all Jeff Davis. I mean, Jeff Davis really is just such a little renegade when it comes to the kinds of characters he builds. I mean, it was one of the first shows where LGBTQ was involved that wasn't, sort of posted with like, the more you know kind of tone in the background, or it didn't make it a big deal. Like he was just building more normal evolved characters for teenage shows at that time. So that was I can't take points for that. That's a Jeff Davis thing. But as far as like the strong female approach, I went to an all girls school from like 5 till 16. And I don't know if it's a coincidence, but like I in every profession, the people I interact with ironically tend to be women. So um I've just never been part of the world where I feel like, at least in this country, I mean, in other parts of the world are a very different story, but this country, I've never felt less than, maybe for a millisecond here and there, but for the most part, I've always felt very comfortable, where that wasn't an achievement, but just the status quo. So like Jeff and I really saw eye to eye on that. Where I only learned through Hollywood that the just the discrepancy, the pay discrepancy, the pay gap. I did not know that until really getting into my acting career. So to me, I wasn't really aware of it. It was just the norm for me. And that's a blessing. That's a privilege. I'm aware of that too.
Well, if
Yeah.
you've never felt the discrepancy, then you've never went to buy a car because I went with my wife when we bought her car, and the sales guy just kept talking to me, even though
Oh,
she'd asked the question. And I'm
oh
like,
gosh.
dude, I'm not buying it. You got to talk to her.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
controls the money.
I
So,
think I've had like, there's a few I think there's been a couple times in my career where I'm like, I'm not going to pull this card because I usually don't pull this card, but this like you don't like. I built a van a few years ago, and it I think the only thing that shocks me when women do a certain thing is their stature, because it's really hard to carry a 4x8 sheet of plywood if you are like less than 5'5", 5'6".
Okay.
It's really actually very difficult. And so whenever I see like a girl building who's like 5'8", 5'9", I'm like, oh yeah, she's capable. She can do it. Um, and so, I'm 5'4" on a good day. So I'm like, building is where I really give points to like the short girls who can build. I'm like, oh, they are badass, because I don't know how are you actually physically like moving your limbs to
Right.
do that. And because I struggled a lot, I needed help. Um, so yeah, so that's kind of my thing. But yeah, maybe a couple times in my career, but I would say for the most part, I've gotten pretty lucky. Yeah.
All right. All right. So one of the other things they told me was the thing they loved about Lydia was the progression of the character. When she started out, she was a little more entitled, not maybe the nicest person on the planet, but then she really progressed into someone who was just really confident and kind. And that's one of the things that is great. And we'll talk about this a little bit when we get into the mystery thing. But when you're not in that 2 hour confinement of a movie, you really can grow characters pretty extensively. So is that like one of the fun things about being in a series?
I loved Lydia's progression because, I'll go to conventions and hear this from fans that that's what they really loved. And I think it just was the organic progression, really, of trust. She didn't really have a lot of people she could trust. And she wasn't in like the best relationship when you meet her. And uh, as time goes on and you just make friends with people and you're in difficult situations together, I think that's where that empathy really grew out of Lydia. So that's absolutely a huge blessing in television. And I come mostly from television. So, telling these multi year stories is, you have a lot of time to percolate on it. When you're filming a movie, it's like run and gun go. Like you said, I mean, it's a 2 hour movie on screen and it's like maybe a 3 month process on average off screen. And if it's Hallmark, it's 1 month
Yeah,
process. So yeah, I mean, I think it's the time in real life that you have to think about those things, those progressions, and then obviously it's a multi-year, hopefully, show.
perfect. All right. So getting ready for this, I hopped on the Google and I was looking up you, and you got to believe everything on the the internet, right? So
Uh-huh.
from what I can gather, your background is you are Dutch and English, and your
Oh,
birthday
no,
is
not true.
no. Well, that's what the
No,
internet says. All right, well then
no,
screw that.
no.
Then the other was that your birthday is in October. I was gonna say you're
It
my
is October.
doppelganger because I'm Dutch English and my birthday is a week after yours.
Oh, well, you're a Libra. Well,
But
yeah,
yeah,
fellow Libras. Yeah. No, I'm both my parents were adopted, so I don't have a lot of.
oh, so am I.
Oh, nice,
And that's how I
nice.
found out doing the DNA
In the
thing.
DNA. Yeah, so I wasn't adopted, but my both my parents
Right,
were. And so that was an interesting thing to like really not know our health history
right.
past my parents. Thankfully, like knock on wood, both my parents are here, and that's my roadmap. And then I have a one full brother. I say I have the buffet platter. Then I have a half brother and a stepsister. There's four of us total, but for the first like 10 years of my life, it was just my full brother and I. I'm the oldest out of everybody, and my mom got really into genealogy in the last like I want to say 5 to 8 years, and we knew that she on her birth certificate we thought she was Swedish, um, and then it turns out she's almost full Norwegian instead of Swedish. And so then she found these cousins.
Right
The
next
cousins
door.
still speak Norwegian, apparently. We would make some like Swedish dishes, but then I think lefse can be, it's a Norwegian dish. I don't know if it's a Swedish dish, but now we make like Norwegian dishes at Christmas, and she has a bunch of cousins that were able to tell her about when they immigrated in the late 1800s, and that was pretty cool to see. So the red hair is not Irish; it's actually Viking, like
All
straight
right.
to the source. Um, and so, yeah, but I've always loved cold weather. Like I really struggle in heat, and that makes more sense now. We don't know what my dad is. He's kind of a mutt, in that I think he's mostly French,
So
So
he's never done the DNA.
he has done. There's like stories, so it's like
Okay.
there's French, maybe some sort of UK something. We're not sure what, but we know that he looks like Jack Nicholson and James Gandolfini had a baby. That's kind of what he looks like. He has like black hair, green eyes. Like he's now he's bald, so it's he's yeah. But we think it's a good amount of French. That's the kind of the most we know. So French and Norwegian.
Well, being the adopted thing, that's always like that little mystery thing, and that's the reason why I
Such
did
a
the
mystery.
DNA. Was my wife is just like, I have to know what you are because
Yeah.
you just have this thing. You're like Middle Eastern, Russian, some South American thing, and I turned out to be, yeah, like this total as whatever white,
Yeah, we're pretty white.
old
Yeah.
thing, no, Dutch English. I'm like, okay, I can't be much more than exactly opposite all of that. So,
Yeah, that's so funny. Yeah, we never I
but
think it's really interesting. I think the weather thing strikes a chord with me. I had someone I dated that was Persian, and they actually have all seasons, in a lot of Iran, but he preferred the hotter weather, and I think overall it has hotter climates. And then here I am, like I can't take off my skin. I get so hot constantly.
you're from Texas, right?
I
Known for
hate Texas. I don't
name.
hate Texas. I
Oh,
don't
no,
hate Texas,
wait!
but I hate the weather. And
Breaking news.
no, I don't. I hate the weather in Texas. I
No,
don't hate Texas though. No, no, hate the weather. No, the food in Texas is like some of the best food in the world. It is truly the best food. And if Austin did not have the climate it does, it's such a darn cool city. Oh my gosh, like what a fun place to live. I just couldn't do the heat. There's
I
no
hear
way.
you.
Yeah, yeah. I'm planning. I want to move like north.
All
Yeah.
right, you're like my brother. He has to stay in the cold climates. I migrate to the
I
hot
like
ones
summer at
and the
65
warm.
degrees and winter at like 40,
Um,
35. Yeah.
Unfortunately, the planet's not treating you well with the
No,
direction
I
it's
gotta go
going.
super
Then,
north. Yeah.
so um,
Yeah. I love Vancouver. Hallmark is what showed me the Vancouver way. I never shot in Vancouver until Hallmark, and like a little less than 2 years ago. And it's like an AI city. It's got all the things. It's the best place in the world. I love it.
all right. Well, that's where my son wants to live. So when he graduates, so we'll see.
He's gonna have the best life up there. Oh,
Though I heard it's like even like crazy New York City expensive there. So I don't know.
it is. It is. It is. It is actually like I think more expensive than New York.
All
Yeah,
right.
that is true. But you
So
have you have mountains like 7 minutes away to go skiing.
all
Yeah.
right. All right. So despite you not being Dutch, by the way, it's a shame that Andrea can't be here because Andrea is Norwegian and she would
Oh,
just go gaga over this whole conversation and we would talk Norwegian things the rest of the hour. So
wait, I'll
um
give her a book. It's called it's a bit of a bait and switch title. It's called The Almost Perfect People, and they go over Scandinavian lifestyles between Finland, Sweden, Iceland as well, and then Norway. And they go and Denmark, and they go through the politics of it all and the politics of each and like the debt ratio to each country, the GDP of each country. It's interesting. And so you find out like some pretty damning evidence with some of the countries. And then how other countries did it right within Scandinavia and why that was. It's a really interesting book.
and all right, that there you go. That's like kind of a sleuther book but of economics.
It's
All
a
right.
great book.
All right. All right. So another way which we, other than I guess both Libras, which we are similar, is you also are a podcaster. You
I am.
had your old Howler, was it Howler back,
Go back now.
which was about Teen Wolf, and now you have Uncoupling. So getting into the world of podcasting, what was that? Now you obviously are an actor, you're used to being all those things, but doing podcasting is a little bit different. What do you like about doing your podcast?
I love for being an actor, I really don't like wearing a bunch of different clothes. Like if I could own 10 items of clothing, it would actually make me so much happier. I just can't make the decision of what to get rid of. Like I can only get rid of little bits at a time. But I want to be I'm a want to be minimalist. And I just I could wear the same set of clothes for 3 days and not feel like they're dirty, depending on what you're doing. If you're walking around the house, there's two fers and three fers all the time with me. Like my laundry's very little after 2 weeks. As long as it doesn't smell, you're good. So acting, when you change clothes like 5 times a day sometimes, is not fun when you have multiple, days you're shooting in an episode. So on screen days. So podcasting is nice because you don't have to change clothes that many times a day.
I will vouch for that today.
Yeah, it's awesome. And obviously the digital aspect was a bit of a learning curve for me. So I'm happy that I got to learn skills that frustrated me prior to podcasting, but now that I've done it, it's like, oh yeah, no, I know how to do that, or put it up on the draw. I was technologically illiterate for the most part. I gave up the floppy disk way too late in life. Like it was pretty shocking when I started using the USB sticks. So I have a pattern of that. So that helped me break that pattern, podcasting. And then the things I didn't like were it's almost more of like a 9 to 5. Like you have a consistent schedule. And I actually love having all my time off and then really intense work schedules, like 90 hours a week for a month. I love that. I love like going really intense and then nothing at all. So I had to become a bit more of a consistent, normal human to be a podcaster. So there was pros and cons to the podcasting world for me, but by far the favorite is what I think about back to the two that I did is once all the scheduling and just the rigmarole is done. Once you just get to have a conversation with someone, that was always my favorite part. Yeah,
100% agree. It is
yeah,
fun, as we're doing now.
yeah.
All right. Um, all right. So you kind of alluded to this a little earlier, which I want to touch on, but from when I once again learned from the internet, you lived the van life,
I did.
and now you said you like build a van,
Well,
which
I built the van. I mean, the van life's not over. I moved back for like just personal purpose, like, life purposes back to Los Angeles. And I'm in a position now where I can get back in the van. So I'm so excited to be back in it this fall.
so like tell us a little bit about what the van life, because I have my notion of what it is, and I actually think you did this where you just like
Mm.
went and living out of that van for a while. Is that what you
Yeah, I did
did?
13 months in the van. Yeah.
So 13 months with no quote unquote home, so to
No, I
speak.
rented out my house. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And
I
sleeping in
mean,
the
your
van
van's
and
the home.
everything? All right. So
Yeah.
where was the favorite place? Did you go beyond the United States?
No, and
Okay.
that's like a huge like dagger to my heart is that I moved home thinking that was the right decision. It was a very hard decision to make because it had been my dream since probably 2007, beginning of 17. I had this idea of like end of 16 of like I want to try this. Um and I hadn't really explored my own backyard is why I decided to build a van or wanted to build a van at that time. I traveled all over the world with acting but hadn't really I don't think maybe I had been to like one national park. I don't think I had. And so that's initially why I wanted to build the van. But the people that you meet on the road are actually what changed the game for me. I thought it would be my tricked out van that I bought, bought and built, and then the scenery, and it wasn't. It was absolutely the people that
Where
made it so
where was the
lovely. Oh
favorite
yeah,
place you went to?
thank you. The favorite place was probably Glacier National Park up in Montana, and there's a river that's like 5 minutes from that. And I spent almost like 2 months by this river. And people, you kind of know it in the van world, and people come down, and you had like themed bonfire nights like along the river, and you could go from like fire to fire. And there's people like bike packing across the United States. Some were doing the Pan American Highway, so they were going through Alaska and then going through parts of America and then down to Central and South America. Um, so hearing their stories, there was one bike packer that he had trekked through several countries across Africa on a bike. And he started in Djibouti and had to get like special permission from the Djibouti government to start it in Djibouti. And we're thinking, okay, was that pretty dangerous? He's like, no, I had no problems in Djibouti. Kenya was my problem. I was like, really? Like, I wouldn't think Kenya would be a problem, but it was, and Djibouti was great. So you think where it just really is it breaks a lot of myths of where is dangerous in the world, where is not dangerous in the world. And so hearing people's stories every night in those bonfires was pretty. I was like, what is life? Like, this is so cool that I get to just be a fly on the wall of these conversations.
Now, were there people who you met like there and then months later would hey, I remember you from
Oh,
somewhere else.
yeah,
Like,
I
you
mean, there's
actually got the
always, like,
community?
1 degree of separation usually, like, there was a guy I was in grizzly territory at the top of this lake. I really loved Montana. I had to kinda choose, between the time frame I had with, like, do I wanna do Oregon, Idaho, or Montana? And I chose Montana. And, it's you're always gonna have, like, FOMO of somewhere else when you have a van because 'cause you're like, "Oh, should I be" that decision fatigue is real in van life, but at the top of this lake, there's a guy that we spent probably, like, 5 days together, and he worked 9 to 5, and I peeked out because I was by myself for a few days, and I peeked out and I saw his van, and false security a bit is like, "Oh, he has the same kind of van I do. Clearly, he's gonna be fine or cool," and but he was, and he's a paramotorer. He had a big old wheel on the back of his van, and but it was too big to be a tire. So I'm like, what is that? And he was a paramotor, and he was from Austin, but wanted to paramotor, so that's why he was in the van. And he had a dog that I would watch his dog during the day, and we'd play games at night and cook together. And we probably had like 40 mutual like acquaintances that we knew in the van world. Like, oh yeah, I came with them like 2 months ago. Oh yeah. So you always just it's unusually safe. I say that with that
That's what I was
naturally.
gonna ask.
It's really safe. I mean, because everyone kind of knows each other. If you do something that's not cool, everyone's going to know about it within that community. I mean, I have friends that I've texted. I mean, oh my gosh, 3 years later, we're still really close. A lot of my friends would ski the Powder Highway. Like it's they got. I'm the loser of the group. Like I didn't get to adventure as much as they all do, and they still do. So they're a fun bunch.
So you stayed basically in the Montana area. You didn't go
I
around the
stayed in the
entire
Montana
country.
area,
Okay.
and then I've got my big goal would be obviously Baja has always been a huge goal of mine. There's a really lovely kite surfing spot in Baja that I would love to be a part of because I'm trying to learn how to kite surf and it's really hard. But there's that, and then taking my van over to Europe isn't as expensive. It's like $2,500 and 10 days on a ferry. If you were,
Seriously?
yeah,
It's, like, more expensive to get it to Boston than,
correct. It actually
across
is.
the Atlantic,
Yes.
jeez.
So, I would love to go over to like Europe to Africa for like, a year and a half trek. That would be a big goal of
Wow.
mine.
So when you do this, do you pretty much have to put career on hiatus for a little while? Like, you can't hop
That
back and
particular trek, I probably would, but at the same time, if you get a job, you just put it in long-term parking and go.
I guess that's an advantage of Hallmark movies turn around so quickly too, right?
Hmm. Oh yeah, it's not a problem at all. Yeah.
Okay. Alright. Alright. Well, let's go and fast forward a couple years and you're going to your 20-year reunion. Are you like do now you said you only went to this girls' school until you were 16.
I did. I
You
went
didn't
to
graduate?
I didn't
No?
graduate the all girls school, but those are the people that I'm still friends with a lot of my Daisies.
So
Hockaday is the school. So it's I didn't realize it at the time. I took it for granted. I would say if you go to a single sex education school right now and you have friends there and that's all you know, you take it for granted. You don't realize like the kind of education that you're getting. And I wish I could have like told my younger self really enjoy that time because I was so antsy to get to the next thing, and which I'm sure is pretty common with everybody. But
mhm,
to be in that particular privileged environment, and I mean for like education and just like the friendships that I made there were clearly lifelong. I mean, we all still keep in touch, and we've known each other since we were 5. So, and it's really cool. We only had like 100, maybe 20 girls that graduated then in that class. So it's like one went on Jeopardy, and we were really proud of like Molly for going on Jeopardy. And I mean, these girls are smarty patardy. They are smarty pants. Like they know it. They are. I was the dumb one at that school. They're just so intelligent, and you really the education there. I really value it. So I miss that school very much. But I mean, if I had a reunion, I'd probably go to that reunion. I went to satellite school because I was starting to try and dabble into acting,
okay.
and that had no bearing on my life.
I went to a male boarding school.
Okay.
We had a girls' school though, is right next to us, but
Yes.
it's interesting because you think everyone's like, "Oh, you went to this boys' school," and it's like, "Yeah," but you just didn't really know any different. And kind of like
Yeah.
you too, it was one of the elite schools in the country, and I did not appreciate it at the
No,
time. And I look back at it, and it was some of my fondest memories. I still have
totally.
my friends from there are the closest friends I have.
Yeah, exactly. I have you seen The Holdovers?
Of course.
Of course, yeah, I was gonna say,
Yep.
yeah, David Hemmington, I'm a huge fan of his as a writer, and Alexander Payne is like the creme de la creme of director for me. You don't get better than Alexander. I even liked his like, unpopular opinion movies. Like I just love like Downsizing, and I of course love Election, and I just that man can do no wrong in my eyes. I love him.
All right. All right. Well, I was going to ask if any of your other classmates have Wikipedia pages, but if one's on Jeopardy, then maybe.
She might was she I mean, I'm full on outing Molly right now. She's pretty fancy at Google, I think. She's been there for a long time. So I'm sure she might have a Wikipedia page or a TED
All
Talk
right.
somewhere. Yeah. There's
All
a
right.
lot of people. I mean, I think one went into the Peace Corps, a lot are in tech, a lot are in sort of the business track type people.
Yep. Yep.
A lot run nonprofits. A lot of them were like athlete junkies, so like the ultra races and stuff like that. They really led with their passions, that's for sure. Yeah, no, I'm the least cool to graduate from Hockaday. I can
I
assure
no,
you.
I hear you. I hear you. I've got many
These people
classmates have
really.
gone on to some pretty impressive
Hmm.
things
It's
as
pretty cool
well.
to watch, and I'm just like waving in the corner. Yeah, totally. They're sweet though. They're really supportive of. They'll text me sometimes if they see something or if they're in a hotel room and they're like, "Oh my gosh," so they're
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah, like Selma Blair is one of my good friends'
Oh,
little sister, of which
that's
I
so
was like,
funny.
look at her, and I just imagine her as a little eighth grader, and then seeing what she became. It's
That
like,
makes
oh,
sense with Cool Intentions. There's like a
yeah,
through line with they were hard schools growing up. Like I had there were classes at UCLA that were far easier than the classes I
oh,
took at Hockaday. 100%.
that's I same thing. When I got to college, my first 2 years were rehashes of I didn't have to do anything because I'd already done it in
Oh,
high
totally.
school.
Oh, I mean, we
So,
were doing redux
but
equations in like legit 6th or 7th grade. I was like, "What is
yeah,
what is happening?" Like, yeah. Oh, totally.
but
Yeah.
I went to the no longer Pac-12 there, but I went to the University of Arizona, which was
Uh,
the cream educationally of the Pac-12, unlike UCLA, which I think barely holds on its accreditation. It's not a very good academic school.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know
I
anything about
I'm
Pac-12.
kidding. It's
It's a
like the
sports thing,
top
I'm assuming.
the Pac-12. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But it's
Yes.
the whatever the whole schools. But yes,
Yeah.
obviously UCLA is a top three public
Oh,
school.
to go back
But
to the van thing, I will give a shout out to Phoenix because Phoenix had one of the favorite things I have discovered on my van journey that was not having to do with nature or people, and that was the Instrumental Museum in Phoenix.
oh, the MIM,
Is
the
that what it's called?
music instrument
Yes,
museum, whatever. Yeah, yeah.
that thing is so darn cool. That like there's like a Belgian guy that like built it.
Right.
That's also its sister thing. Have you been?
I have not. I know when
Oh,
it came out, like everyone was going, and I actually, ironically, did a whole bunch of work for them, but
okay.
I've never
I
gone.
went there. I thought I'd spend like I met like a guy like in his 80s at like this like go-kart thing at the top of a dirt mountain with like 30-foot cactuses. And we both were like watching, having our morning coffee, like watching these like souped up homemade go-kart rigs and where we had slept that night before. And he's like, "You need to go down to the instrumental museum." I was like, "Well, I'm trying to get home to Texas. I can't, he's like, "Well, just stop by." I was like, I should take that guy up on his offer. I should just stop by. I was there for 8 hours and showed up a day later to Texas. I loved it. I spent all day there.
See, it's interesting because I thought about it, and people have talked about how cool it is. I'm like, it's kind of like instruments. Is it
It's
that
it's it's
interesting? But
cheesy in the sense that like you put on these headphones and you go to these like habitats, like, and as you pass to the next habitat, it'll you don't have to like press a
right,
button. It just goes to the next country. It's a bit cheesy in that sense, but it's not. It's so cool. They have an instrument from every country in the world. You learn. It was really there was a special exhibit on the Congo and like 8 different kinds of instruments with 8 different tribes in the Congo, like for its like special downstairs exhibit, and then you go to all the other countries on the other floors, and then how they divide up America is pretty cool as well. It's really worth it.
all
I
right.
thought I was blown. It's one of my favorite museums outside of like the Tate or the Natural. It's. I was like, how is this not like in London or New York City? It's not. It's in Phoenix, and it's awesome. I highly suggest it.
It's like one of those things where you always go to those things in other cities, and you never go to anything in your
In
own
your own
city.
city. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, that's my favorite museum. I have told everybody in the van world, go to the Phoenix Instrumental Museum.
All right,
Yes.
I will go to it now
Yes.
on your
Please.
recommendation. So, all right. So I listened to you over on one of my friends' podcasts, the Suspender
Mhm.
Unbuttoned, and
That's so
one of the
sweet.
things you dropped on there was how you love Severance.
Oh, I love
And
Severance,
this
yeah.
is going to go a little bit to our earlier conversation about like progression.
Mhm.
And I remember when that came on, my wife and I watched the first couple episodes, like, whatever, this is nothing. And like the third one, we're like, do we want to keep going? We're like, sure, we have nothing else going on. And like after the fourth one, we're like, when is this next one coming out? I will like give up my children to just get this next episode quicker. This is so good.
That's
And
so funny.
then the remaining of the episodes were just amazing. And I had a friend who was started watching it and he didn't want to watch. And he had the same exact experience.
Oh, I
So
did the same thing. I watched a couple episodes and then gave up. It's like, I don't know, maybe my attention span with shows I'm like, I'm not of the TikTok generation, but I'm through
right.
just osmosis, I'm becoming that. And it did take me 2 rounds, but oh man, it was the same way. When I came back to it, it was like obsessed.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it's one of those things where you can just build. And that is one of the cool things. And like I say, that's I think, I'm kind of alluding to what we're going to get to with the mysteries there, but it is just the thing that's great. But is there anything else now? Because that's a couple years. So I think the new Succession's coming out in like 2 weeks or something, if I'm not
Severance, you mean?
mistaken.
Severance or Success? What do you mean?
Oh wait, are we talking Severance or Succession?
Oh, no, no, I thought you said Succession for a second. I was
Oh
like,
no,
"Wait, what?"
Severance.
Severance. Is it 2 weeks from now?
I think it's coming out the end of this month. I think. I could be
No.
wrong. I thought it
Oh, that's
was.
so exciting. They just dropped a trailer. I'm just saying, my friend just brought her a homemade breakfast. So
Oh,
it's a cottage cheese, sausage, hard-boiled egg, and bell pepper. And
you're
it's a
you're,
real random breakfast, and she's so excited
you're
to,
getting your protein.
oh yeah, no, her brother makes it, and so I'm very excited to try it. So I apologize if I take a couple bites to do
Oh
it.
no, feel free to eat away.
Um, but no, I mean, yeah, I'm a huge Severance person, and not to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but there's like one line at the very end that Adam Scott says, and I really just been
Well, you
repeating
can
it.
ruin it. It's 2 years
No, I would
old.
never. Oh,
It's 2 years.
absolutely not. Absolutely not. It might even spawn more curiosity because of the sentence, but I still don't want to like. I don't want to ruin anything. I don't want to ruin anything. It
I'll
was
say
so good.
I'll say the final twist is pretty darn good too.
Oh, it's
At the very
incredible.
end. So,
I think that like that slow burn storytelling of not feeling the need to like
right.
jump in with the Joneses and be sparkly and be quick to the chase. It was just such a just very capped, no need to like stand up and cheer. It was just very foot off the pedal.
Right. But then once it hit the pedal, it did not let up. Like
It did
those
not let
final
up,
5 episodes
but
were
it
just
still did it in such
intense.
a cool, laid back way. They're like, "Oh, we're going, we're going, we're going." It's like, what? And we're the ones like losing our, and you know what? Yeah,
Right.
yeah, totally, totally.
Okay. So would you say you are more of a foodie, an audiophile, or a cinephile?
Oh, that's a really good one.
As you're chowing down your food right now. But
It's so good, Jess. It's so good. It's Jimmy Dean sausage, cottage cheese, or yellow bell pepper, and hard boiled egg. It's a really random breakfast, but it's really good.
it does seem like a
Um,
hodgepodge, but
hmm I would say that's tough. I'm definitely, well, I don't know. I mean, I guess probably a foodie, but at the same time, every time I take a road trip, which is pretty often, I am obsessed with audiobooks. I'm not a reader visually, but audibly, I
well, it's
am.
2024. I don't think many people are
Oh, I have tons of friends that read like 2 books a week
the
still.
old school paper.
Oh, my friend I'm with has a library card. She's like, "I gotta return the library books while you're on your podcast." Oh
Wow.
yeah, my mom reads 2 to 3 books a week. She's a huge reader. So I am of the audio
I'm with
class.
you. And everyone I know is audio, but
Yeah, I'm
okay.
audiobook. But then I love food. Every time I land in a city, it's like the top 10 places to eat or the top 10 like foods of that country. I look at the menus before I go to restaurants, so there's the evidence for that. And then obviously a cinephile because I'm actually not a big TV show watcher. I'm more of a movie watcher. So I'd say that's a really hard question. I'm gonna go with foodie just because day to day that's probably my biggest, but cinephiles I don't know. They're all three. That's a tough question for me.
All right.
I
Well,
don't know who I'm gonna marry and who I'm gonna kill. I don't know.
well, we're going to go. We'll go with this, or excuse me, the foodie, since you chose that. So
Sure.
then you just committed this heinous crime, and you're on death row. What are you
Uh-huh.
picking for your for
Woo!
that final meal?
Everything. I would require so much food.
Just keep it
I
coming.
Kraft mac and cheese with some additions added in there, Chick-fil-A. It was funny, we had this question on a bachelorette party, and everyone's like, "A really nice branzino or champagne." I was like, "Really?" Like, I didn't realize I just didn't graduate childhood, because I would not choose those things. Like, those are the things when I'm behaving like an adult. I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I like those things, but I'm not obsessed with those things."
Not your last
Uh,
meal.
no. Um, I would say, like, there's a burger from this place called Petit Trois in LA. It's called the Twamek burger, and so I would probably choose that. That'd be on the list. Um, Animal style In and Out fry, like every a fillet for sure, a fillet. And then all of the Bluebell factories ice creams, every single flavor of the Bluebell factory.
You're
Yeah,
definitely a carnivore.
I'm definitely a carnivore, unfortunately, because I
Huh?
wish I was a vegan internally, but it's been very hard for me to make a transition. Yeah,
Y-
yeah.
You're a Texan, so
It is hard for
it's kind
me.
of required by law, I think.
It is
So
hard for me.
okay, all right. So then, one of my big questions: where do you stand on pineapple on pizza?
I'm traditionally not a fan, but I can get on board with anything pretty much. So I'm like, "Oh, okay." Like I have a friend that she and her fiance really like pineapple on pizza. So I've always been down to eat it with them because it's like, sure. So I'm one of those really middle of the road people about pineapple on pizza. I wouldn't personally put it on my pizza, but I like it when someone else does because it's a nice departure.
All right, all right. I'm quietly judging you, but that's okay.
Most people are
Uh,
not pineapple on pizza, and I wouldn't say I am, but I'm just not against it.
so, what is your most embarrassing song on your Spotify in your Spotify library?
I don't know. Probably like 90s rap
I
that
say,
I
with
grew
your
up
age,
with.
I was going to guess it had to be something 90s. So,
It had to be, yeah. Like, I wouldn't even say Scrubs is even embarrassing, but um, I would say, yeah, I'd probably say some 90s rap.
all right, all right. Well, we're here to talk about Tipline, so let's finally get to it. Now, this took place in Detroit, but it actually took place in Vancouver.
Hmm.
So I'm from Detroit originally. I was so excited, but then it's Vancouver. So do you feel as cheated as I do that you didn't get to spend 3 weeks in Detroit cruising around the 313 and instead you were in lovely Vancouver? Have you ever been to Detroit?
I have not been to Detroit. Um, Crystal Reed from Teen Wolf lived near Detroit growing up. So I would hear a little bit about Detroit through her for several years, working on Teen Wolf with her. But very often we are never in the city we
Right.
are supposed to be in when we shoot things. So you might research some of the things about that city. Mine also includes the food list, of course. Um, but it's you kind of it's built into your imagination and a little bit of
Of course.
research. So I didn't necessarily miss it, but it would be cool to if we like ever got to go back and do another one, like that would be really cool to actually shoot in Detroit. But I can almost guarantee that wouldn't happen if there
Of
was
course
ever
not.
another one.
I know.
Yeah, yeah, but
Um, so
Vancouver to me is like a blank slate when it comes to acting, and it morphs into whatever it's supposed to be.
if I go out in my garage, I have this like bin and it's got all these memory things in it. But in there is probably 30 different Detroit Free Presses because I grew up on Detroit Free
Oh,
Press.
yeah.
And so when it was, I read the first of the storyline that you were the tip line for Detroit Free Press and everything like that. I was like, oh, I am so sold.
Oh,
This movie cannot go wrong. And so it's great. And Detroit Free Press obviously got a little bit of love with some of the little establishing shots that they showed and stuff like that. So,
that's
but
fun. Yeah.
when you saw Maddie on, like, you got your script and you saw Maddie on paper, What did you then do? Because obviously, when the script's written, they have no idea that you are going to be playing
Right.
Maddie, and the casting happens so quickly and everything like that. What did you look at it on paper and then go, all right, this is where I'm going to take this two-dimensional and turn it into the three-dimensional and make it the Maddie that's Holland.
I think what I really connected with is that it's just her might. She's like such a mighty might, behind everything she does. And so I wanted to bring that to the character and to like you really feel that on her, whether she's a bit more coiffed and put together or a bit more like loose and wacky when she's at the tip line and gets to be more of herself. She puts 100% into whatever she does. And that's something that I think is an admirable quality. And also, it, she could have been maybe a bit more buttoned up. And I thought, I don't know if this chick would be buttoned up. She's trying to do this like side hustle and she's not exactly 21. And there was a version of Maddie where she was going to be much younger. So they liked this idea that she had a different educational path in life and a bit more scrappy, essentially. And like, there was nothing wrong with that. And she really took pride in everything she did. And yeah, I think she doesn't care if anyone judges her too. She's very in her own world. And I really appreciate that out of Maddie as well.
All right. Well, I'm going to let you. I'm going to give a little nod to the your Dallas Texan in you. And my favorite mystery is Gourmet Detectives, which had 5 episodes and stars Brooke
Okay.
Burns, who is the main. She's with the thing I really liked about this movie was you had Maddie who actually fit sleuthing around, right? She's not a baker or something like that. Like it made sense that you'd have the tip line
Yeah,
and
yeah.
person involved. And then you have obviously Chris, who of course should be investigating. But that's kind of the same thing with Gourmet Detective. It's just role reversal.
Mhm.
And but Brooke Burns, who stars in there, is from Dallas. So there you
I didn't
go.
know
It's
that.
yep. So she's very proud Dallas Texan and everything like that. So to be compared with her, even though it's the flip side, you should consider that a great compliment because she is my favorite, like
Oh,
I say,
that's so lovely to
of all
hear.
that. So and I think as I told you when we were chatting a little bit on Instagram, I went into this with very high expectations, and I was a little nervous because you came out with a little sort of quirkiness, but you pulled it off so well, and I thought that that character, like you said, it could have went the different directions, and I really liked that scrap how it went
Oh,
scrappy, and
good, good.
I think you did it because it's a fine line because that person could also be annoying, right?
Mhm.
But the
But she
great
is
thing is
annoying to Detective Beeks.
well, of course, but that's the fun, right? Because this is the Hallmark Mystery thing.
She
So you
has
got
to
to have
be
that.
she has to believably be a little bit annoying, but there has to be an admiration underneath that annoyance.
Correct. And I just love how you took it to that edge, but you never went over it, and you just kept it so
Mm,
she's still likable. You still yes, all that stuff. And so I loved what you did with the character
thank you.
there. So all right. So you've been in 3 Hallmark things to date, which you were Elizabeth in Time for Him to Come Home. You're Amelia in Making Waves, and now you're with Maddie. Which of those 3 would you say most would be reflective of you?
Definitely Maddie. Definitely.
Really?
Yeah,
You're not
I
just saying that because that's the movie we're promoting now?
no, I got home and my friend's brand new, very expensive car was stolen at a Joann's Fabrics in Los Angeles. And we found the car faster than the police did. We spent all night
Were
running,
you
doing
so you're
Google searches.
channeling your inner Maddie.
Oh, yeah, so they had found the car, but it was in a ravine behind this house, and we were looking on Google Earth because 'cause we're like, "Well, how to get back there?" And the police like, "Well, we don't know, but we can't go back there. We do think they're stripping the car back there." We're like, "This is unreal, like, you have to be." And my friend gets very shy, and he's one of my best friends. He's like, "Ah, let's call it." I'm like, "No, we're not gonna call it. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, how it didn't just fly over a gate. Like, how did it get in?" And the police never realized there was a gate like 2 doors down on another property, and we only realized that from, like, doing circles, and, like, they didn't even go 2 doors down, which, to be fair, it took us we left the place, went to the other openings of the ravine. They were not able to get in at that point in time. It was like the firefighter, the fire department had like certain locks on them to not be able to get in. So we don't think they got them through that way. And then we found the gate that they actually got through. And then sure enough, there was like all these little junked out cars. Like, how in this nice neighborhood did we not see this? But the cops didn't either. The police didn't either. And we had two different departments working with us. One department whose jurisdiction it technically was, where the car was actually stolen, was so unhelpful. And then the policeman that was at the scene of the crime where they found it was lovely and super helpful. But we actually ended up finding the car before they did, as far as how they got in.
Now, were you acting like Maddie there, where you're like at the desk saying, "Okay, this is what we're gonna do,"
Oh,
taking
I was
charge?
I was showing up at 3 a.m. I was back at 8. Oh, I was on fire. I am like the ADD justice
Uh,
chromosome to the nines of like, this is I just hate injustice.
uh,
And then, there was a dog that showed up on the porch, leash collar, leash attached, but no person, just dragging the leash down the sidewalk. And I found his owner, the exact owner that was 11 miles away in Silmar in 3 days. And I was like, I think I have a knack for this.
there you
Um,
go.
so I've never been like a sleuther in the boyfriend department. So I get my like itches in these random ways of like puzzling things together. So no, I'm genuinely Maddie.
All right, all right. All right, so what's a fun little story behind the scenes that took place in making this movie that, we didn't, as fans watching it, we didn't get to see?
I just think Cindy and Jess, the directors, are so lovely. Jess did Amy Teagarden as well, and she's comes from like 2 decades of acting plus, and so having a former actor turned director, she I really looked up to her. She's only like I think a year older than me, but she seems so much more mature than me, and she's just cool. And she was so we had the same headspace shooting that movie and wanted to make our days. And um that sort of straddle of taking it very seriously and then like at the end of the day, no, you're not doing brain surgery and we're gonna be fine. We both had the kind of the same approach into like how we kind of be what kind of team players we are on a set. And so to have the same demeanor in a much more immature way than Jess is, um, was lovely. And then her mom, Cindy, also was directing. They were co-directors, and they were just great. Um, they're they really made the experience for Chris and I.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right, so it's been now over 3 days since it premiered last Friday. It's obviously been on the app for a while.
Mhm.
We're doing our review this Thursday. We're holding off for it for everybody to be able to see it on
Okay.
the channel rather than we saw it on the app, but we didn't want to do any spoilers. And we know how you feel about spoilers now. You won't even break a spoiler 2 years later. But
No,
we held off. But the ratings and everything, the initial ratings are in. Have you heard anything about how it
I have
performed?
no idea. No, I have no idea. I mean, people were very kind to me, and a few executives at Hallmark had reached out and said, "Hey, you really the response has been so lovely," which is nice to hear outside of your little micro echo bubble. um, that they were pleased with it and pleased with the fans' reactions, but I do not know in the ratings.
All right. I'll say just doing our little very unscientific following all the different comments and everything, it has been very well received. Mysteries. One of the things which now you're into the sleuther world is when you do the rom com, is people are very passionate about Hallmark. They love their Hallmark. But when you get into the mystery, it's 10 times more because once again, those characters do get developed. And so um, that's way more. So to get pretty much universal good comments
Oh,
is a good sign. Because I haven't seen
good.
anyone who's complained about it. So
Oh, good. My mom lives in a it's the biggest gated community in the world in Arkansas, and there's a lot of Hallmark fans in that community. There's like 6,000 people that live there, and they were. I was leaning on them heavily. Like, guys, give me your honest opinion, and they're huge mystery Hallmark people, and they liked it. So that was really nice to hear. So they're my focus group.
perfect. Perfect. All right. All right. So here's a tough question for you.
Mhm.
Who has better hair, Tyler or Chris?
I am not
You
answering
have
that.
to answer. You have to pick.
No.
Who's got the
Hair
better hair?
in general is a very personal topic on human beings. My
They're
dog
both
has
they're
my
both
dog has the best hair I've ever
known
seen.
they're both known for their hair though.
They both have
So
great hair.
and
They're
you've
both
been with them
good
both, so
looks.
you've got to pick
I have.
and
No,
then
I will
toss one
pick.
aside.
I will never pick. Absolutely not. It's apples and oranges. I mean, you've got Tyler's more like straight and kind of you can mold it more easily. And then Chris has got like curly flopsy hair. So it's like it's apples and oranges. You can never. No, I would never. I wouldn't even comment on two bald men. No, absolutely not.
All
No.
right. All right. What kind of
They've
dog do
got
you?
better hair than me, I'll put it that way. That's
What your hair is like? Legend. Go once again. Get back on the internet. You're like one of the
no,
like
it's as I've
power
gotten
redheads of
older,
the
it
planet.
doesn't grow like it used to. It used to grow like a weed, and it's like overnight it stopped in my late 20s. So no, I would never comment on I would say any man's hair, but any person's hair. No.
All
Mm-mm.
right. Then that's what's your
I
what kind
think
of dog do you have?
my one takeaway I'll give give is that I think they're both pretty serious people. They're both lovely. Like Tyler, it was my first Hallmark with Tyler, and that poor man, I badgered him with questions. And he was so kind to me. He answered every single one of them. He was so helpful. He was so welcoming. Like he didn't need to do that, and he did. And I'm forever indebted to Tyler for that. He's such a lovely human being. Um, and he takes his Hallmark duties like royalty. Like he's so serious about them and he's so devoted to them. And I really love that passion in him. Like that to see that as another actor, I that was not lost on me. That stuck out to me with Tyler. Um I'm trying to think. I was gonna say Tyler's more goofy, but they're both pretty serious. And then if you I don't know, they're both really easygoing, very intelligent. Um they're very I don't know, they're such good good dudes. Like they take their personal life, like they're very protective, they're very devoted to like their people, their partners, their life, their families, like they're just good guys. Yeah.
Well, you actually kind of can relate a little bit because the Teen Wolf, like you got the Heinies and then you have the
The
Teen Wolf.
fandom of
Had yeah,
yes, it
both
was
of
very
those are
similar.
pretty passionate fandoms you got going. And actually,
They
Chris
are.
too with his
With the
what he calls
Hardys.
the heart. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I learned about that. And Chris is very humble. Like I would have never known about the Hardys. I had never heard of the Hardys until Tipline just came out, or like the lead up to
All
Tipline.
right.
Um, I love that Tyler and I had a lot in common. Well, that's not true. I was going to say Tyler and I had a lot in common with like liking to to build things and decor, but Chris is a full on mid century like you know just connoisseur over there. He's got an incredible like record collection, and they're both really. I just can attest. Like I haven't worked with all good apples, but those two are genuinely amazing people, as well as Corey. I've worked with Corey too. I've worked with like three brunette guys. Um, and kind of the same thing. They all have really a lot of the same traits, and that they're very devoted to their people. They're very professional, lovely team play. Like I have no dirt, unfortunately, in that department.
Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't
they're
I
all
didn't get
lovely.
dirt. I just wondering who had better hair.
No,
Um,
I would. That's the
I,
dirtiest of the dirt. I
all
can't give
right.
that. No.
The all right. Well, you dropped your dog, so sorry. What kind of dog do you have?
Oh, I have a little mutt named Fifel, a
Bifle?
little scrappy mutt. She's got amazing curly, like strawberry blonde hair.
Oh,
Yeah.
very fits. Okay. Well, just to say, wrap up, and thank you very much. But what is next? Are you in a holiday movie? You don't have to give us too many details,
Hmm.
but are we going to see you over Christmas?
Um, I can't say, but I'll
Okay.
do that with a smile. I think this summer there could be some news. So hopefully everything goes as planned and but as of now, I cannot say anything.
Okay. Do
I'm
you have
also
any
filming a movie this summer that'll be out next year. Um, it's called Zipline. I can't talk about that.
zip
Um,
line and tip line? Do we
I
have
know it
like your
was really
theme
quite
going
funny. I was
now?
like, my 2024 jobs all rhyme. Like, what's going on? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And that's just a regular old thriller type movie,
That's a
action
regular old
movie.
thriller, and that'll be out. I'm assuming sometime in 25, hopefully, if
Okay.
not 26. Yeah.
All right. Well, despite you not answering my big question, this was a ton of fun. Thank you very much, especially I know it kind of came in last minute one, so I really appreciate it.
No worries.
Um, and like I said, we're going to keep encouraging everyone to watch Tipline. It's a wonderful addition to the mystery family for Hallmark there. So
Thank
you
you
should be
guys.
happy
I
that you got
appreciate it.
it. Such a good script there.
I'm really, really grateful. I got super lucky with a lot of my hallmarks. Yeah, with all of them. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Holland.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yeah. Have a good day.